Hello, my name is SvenP. If you want to get good at Fortnite creative and build things like this is the video for you. I'll start off explaining the very basics of Fortnite creative. Then I'll get into some more advanced tips for building epically, all the while making this swamp village. This video will literally take you from zero to hero. If you enjoy this content, don't forget to subscribe, and please consider using code SVEN1205, because it helps me out a lot. Let's get started with the video! So the first thing that you're gonna do is to pick your island. The best islands to build, in my humble opinion, are Meadow Island, Ice Lake Island, Wasteland Island. They all give you a big flat area and some decent looking starting nature. I also really like Caldera Island for building an epic volcano. Kevin Floating Islands is also really nice because you can remove everything there and you'll just have a completely blank map with only water. The island that most of the pro Fortnite creative builders prefer to use is Grid Island because it's the biggest one. But to build on that you have to make all of the nature yourself, and sometimes it's preferable to just have a little starting area that already looks good. We're gonna go into the Meadow Island now, which is my personal favorite. For full mastery of the building mechanics, I'll now show you the basics. Click escape on PC or pause on controller and click on my island on this menu. There are a lot of very cool settings that I'll show you later how to use, like weather, gravity, time, etc. But first I'm gonna explain some stuff about the menus where you find your building pieces. Now click creative on the top of the screen. You can also go directly here by opening up your inventory. To start building epically, either go to prefab or to the gallery menu. Prefab gives access to a pre-built structure. These ones, for example, are called wood shanty. Click on the prefab that you want to place and then click on your hotbar to equip it. You can also open up the prefab to pick specific pieces, but let's place this prefab now. Make sure that the setting build to prop is set to off when placing this, because if you have it set on, they will be placed in a weird way which will cause you future problems. I will explain this setting extensively later because it is a game changer setting compared to other games that doesn't have this. Make sure the bottom of the prefab is on the ground and not flying in the air or being below the ground. It can be a little bit hard to see, but it's not that difficult. Here we have an example of a prefab and it looks really good. There are hundreds of pre-built builds like this. Here are some examples. As you can see, this game offers a lot of options in terms of things to build with, and the possibilities are endless. Honestly, it is so endless, it is a little bit overwhelming for me, but don't tell anyone I said that. The galleries will include the same structures as the prefabs does, but they will be organized instead of being pre-built structures. Here is an example of a gallery that has the same blocks as the prefab that I placed. The walls are the same, the windows are the same. It's all a matter of preference how you prefer to bring your building pieces out. As you can see on top of the screen now, the memory is filling up and 100,000 is the limit. This is because I have so many different types of structures on the map. It will not be the same if I use a smaller variety of blocks. Let me demonstrate this for you. Here I have a sakura tree. It takes up over 2000 memory, but when I place it, it will start taking up only 4 more memory after the first one that I built. It is only the first copy of something that takes up a lot of memory. The rest of it will hardly take up any at all. So be mindful about how many types of building pieces you use. Although despite taking up less memory, using the same block over and over and over does actually cause quite a bit of lag. This is where it gets a little bit problematic to place out a prefab or a gallery every time you need one tiny little chair or whatever. So what you can do to avoid placing something that takes up a lot of memory and then deleting it after you get that one item that you need, you can click open on the galleries and the prefabs and it will show you the list of every item that is in there. Then you can just equip one of them and then the problem is solved. So you found the style that you want, you got your galleries out, you know which items that you want to use, but now you're wondering, how do I actually build epically? So I'm gonna be building a swamp village and explain the controls and the settings extensively on the way, and this will be the fun part. I don't know exactly what the controls are on the controller, but it should be really easy to figure that out. What is more important is to explain what each function does and how to use it. Left click to copy an item, and left click again to place it. Right click to release it, and right click again to cut that item. This is a basic copy-paste system, or cut-paste, where copy-paste is left-click, and cut-paste is right-click, left-click. Also use R to select up to 100 items for copy-pasting. I will later in this video extensively explain how to best use this effectively. You can use X to delete items, you double-click space to fly, you change your flight speed with C. That is very useful when changing between building with accuracy and wanting to move fast. Press N to turn on face, which will let you go through walls. B will open up some more really cool options. In most cases you want drop to be off, but when placing interior, you might want your chairs, for example, to very easily land on the floor. Collision, you want to be at nothing usually. Keep in mind that if you have a big object, the game might crash if you hold it too far on the ground. Hold position should be as selected, but don't think too hard on that. Let's move on to the coolest option, which is build to prop. Building pieces can be divided into two sections: props and structures. Structures has a different snapping point system, and it is the same as how they are in Battle Royale. There is a big square grid where you can build that is built into the map and is invisible, but they cannot go outside of that grid or be at an angle. Your building pieces will support each other, and you can carry that support across the map as long as it's connected to the ground. So if you destroy one of the ones at the bottom, the rest will collapse. This applies to walls, ceilings, roof pieces, stairs, and that sort of thing. If we grab a barrel, however, it will behave very differently. Not only can it float, but it won't be locked to the original square grid. You can change its shape in terms of height, width, and length. You cycle through that with tab, and you hold the tab to alternate between resizing and rotating. This can be done to the building structures too, and this is where the game gets really cool. Click B to open the menu where you can turn build to prop on. This will make your walls, stairs, roofs, etc. into objects that behave like the barrel did. It will make it into props. You can change its size, rotate it, place it on a smaller grid, etc. Also make sure your phone is equipped for this, by the way. If you carry your pickaxe, you will not be able to do anything cool, except running around like a headless chicken. Grid snap can here also be changed between 32, 16, 8, 4, 2 and 1, where 1 is the same size as when build to prop was off. But even though it's at the same size as the original grid, it's not on the same position, which makes it completely useless. 32 is very small, so when you want to place something in a perfect position, use that. All of these grid snaps will keep your build facing the same direction, but if you turn grid snap off, your building piece will be completely free. Press R and E to rotate. There will be 8 rotation points when grid snap is on, and 0 rotation points when it's turned off. You'll very rarely use grid snap off when placing walls and such. It's much more useful with furniture. In most cases, you want to use grid snap 2, and either keep the original size or resize it 5 points bigger or 5 points smaller. Or if you want to go even bigger, do 10 points, then 15, 20, all the way up to 40, because you can't resize it any more than that. You're probably not gonna need to resize it any more than 5, and usually you don't want to resize it at all. But the reason why you want to do it at -5, 0, 5, 10 is that on every 5th, the building pieces are at the size where they snap directly to each other. When resizing 4 up, for example, there will be a tiny gap in between, and if you resize 1 bigger, it will overlap each other a little bit, which doesn't look good. You want to use grid snap 2. This is because on grid snap 1 you won't be able to make corners, but on 2 it will let you make a corner. Now let's move over to the copy paste system, which makes the creative mode so much less time consuming. Press R to select up to 100 blocks and have hold position be as selected. If you don't do that, your blocks will be very difficult to see. They will sometimes be located below your screen, but that won't be an issue with this setting turned on. When copy pasting nature like this, make sure you have build to prop turned on, because these grass pieces behaves like structures unless build to prop is on. By using tab and R, you can rotate this huge piece of grass and stone and plants so that the nature can look natural. This piece here looks very similar to the grass pieces, so I'm gonna use this one to close the gaps. Now you might be thinking to yourself, dude, this is so weird. This thing doesn't fit with the nature at all. It's all the way up in the sky and you're a weirdo. So, what I'm gonna do in order to fix that is that I'm gonna change over to a different map, and you can copy paste a lot of building pieces and bring them over to other maps. So for example, I can go on this one here, which I wanna do, and hold 3. Then I have this one ready here. And also if I wanna bring some of this stuff here, I can just copy paste as much as I can from here, which is not gonna be all of it. But now you can see that I have selected 95 out of 100. Then I hold 2 and save this on 2. And I can move over to this part here. And this way I'll be able to transfer everything sort of in box, which can be pretty useful. But I can always just build it again. This only took 5 minutes to make, so it's not a big deal. So if you do want to bring stuff over, you got it saved. Just click back to hub. Do not click leave creative, because then you will lose it. And let's think of one that fits a little better now. I'm gonna go with grid island. So then you see I still have these building pieces here. So I'm gonna just click, you know, roll it around a little. So there we go, and then I can place it again over here. So I'm gonna make a large circle that I'm gonna have a village on, and surround the large circle with woods, and I will have a lake in the middle. So I'm adding more of the swamp grass around here as well, which is where I'll have the woods on. If you want to see a little bit more of an extensive nature building tutorial, just let me know and I might make that. The copy-paste system is great, but it has its challenges. For one, very often your blocks will land a tiny bit off grid, making it very hard to put them on the right spots. Turning build to prop off, and including at least one structure building piece in what you're copy-pasting, will solve this 100%. But you will have a limited area to place your blocks, and you can't rotate less than 90 degrees. If you're planning on copy-pasting this way, 2 things that I would advise to prevent potential problems there is to have your build based on the original grids, being the grids that you can see when you have build to prop turned off. Because if you do it this way, when you copy paste things, it's very likely that you will be able to snap to your structure. Also, when you're not able to copy paste with build to prop turned off, because you want to have something at, say, a 45-degree angle, or for whatever reason it is just not feasible, don't be a perfectionist. If there's a tiny little gap that turns up, just use your creativity and cover it. Before I build any further on this map, I'm gonna go and show you some of the settings. Now go to my island. There's a lot of settings here, like wind condition for when you make a game mode, and there's time limit, which is defaulted to 5 minutes. Since this is gonna be an artistic map, I'll set that to be off, so that people can explore the map without being thrown out after 5 minutes. For aesthetics, the most important settings will be weather and time of day. Setting that to default will cycle through the day and night, and setting a specific time will freeze the time at that time. Also play around with fog and light settings. I like, for example, red fog 40% with 5 AM. Regarding camera filter, light brightness and light color, they're pretty cool to play around with as well, but I don't personally find them as useful. I like a lot the setting that I have now, but I don't really feel like it's that swampy, so I want to try something else. What if I turn up fog? Make the fog color yellow? This is very cool. And the especially cool part about this is the light rays that are coming through the trees. It feels a little bit more dead here, which is what I'm going for. But I wonder if the yellow is a little too, you know, yellow. I'm gonna be a little rebel and set light color to be blue. And now we have a very sinister feel to this. But at the same time it has a very colorfulness feel to it. Another very cool one with yellow light and red fog is this one. It looks a little bit too crazy, I feel, for this build, but it is still a very cool light setting. I think I'm gonna stick to this one, at least for now. So it's starting to look kind of swampy over here, but to make it look even more swampy, I'll get a piece from the particle gallery that adds a bunch of smoke, and all of the woods around this open area will be filled with smoke, and that will look super cool. The next thing that I'll do is to actually make a custom made build instead of just copy pasting a prefab. Now I have build to prop turned off. I actually think these building pieces here are a little bit bugged, so that the build to prop function doesn't really work well on them. I'm not entirely sure about that, but they did behave a little bit strangely. But as you can see, with the building techniques that I've been talking about, making a cool village like this is very easy and also very fun. If anyone is wondering, by the way, this part of the video is sped up 3 times normal speed. This is how I usually make videos. I speed it up to make the building process look a little bit more interesting. And then I explain my thoughts about it, why I do things the specific way that I do them. One of my favorite parts of this build was the little walkway in the swamp, to make sure you can walk through without sinking. It gave the whole build a lot of personality, I thought. Another thing, when I copy pasted and added as many prefabs as I did to this build, usually almost all of my builds are custom made, but I added this little addition to a lot of these houses that I also thought made them extra cool. I tend to find the prefabs often a little lacking in design. I feel like Epic could have done a little better with some of those. So here's a little bit of an overhead view of all of the houses that I added. I'm not gonna show you the details of how all of them was added to this map, because they were all basically just copy-pasted prefabs. Some of them were added to the original grid, some of them were copy-pasted, set build to prop on, put a little bit on an angle, to make sure the village looks alive. I also experimented quite a bit with the lighting settings and the fog settings. All in all, I was really happy about this. Let's go through it and take a closer look at things. So first of all, we got some yellow fog here, 5 o'clock, white light, I believe. I like how the yellow makes it look kind of bright, but at the same time feel a little poisonous, feel a little ruined. With a mix of red fog and yellow light, this one looks pretty fiery. Really epic looking, I think. But maybe a little too epic for like a swamp village. Here we got blue fog and yellow light, and this was my favorite setting for this. It's the one that feels the most like a ruined swamp, witch hut kind of feel. And then on the left side, there's the sunlight and the sunrise that looks amazing. I really liked how the grass turned out. These grass blocks are completely new and are probably my favorite grass block so far, because they look like actual grass. The normal grass in this game I've always thought was a little too green, too bright. With this, it looks like actual nature. And because of the way that I copy-pasted things on slight angles, like 10-degree angles, 15-degree angles, this whole field of grass looks natural. It's difficult to make nature that isn't super flat in this game, but I feel like I managed to do that really well with this map. This makes me want to make a little bit more of an extensive nature building tutorial. Although this video covered a lot of stuff there was a lot of the nature that I cut out. For example, the building of the lake and mostly the trees surrounding this whole area, but neither of which I spent an extensive amount of time on. Because I wanted this map to basically just be an example of things to build in Fortnite. And it turned out so much cooler than I planned. One final experiment here that turned out amazing. Time of day is still 5 AM, but this time the light is white and the fog is magenta. Is that how you pronounce that? It looks so magical and so awesome. I'm really glad that I decided to try that. But that's it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you learned something. Stay and watch for a bunch more other Fortnite videos, some of which you can see on the screen right now. But here's a little bonus light setting. This is the default one at 12 o'clock. Looks still pretty cool, but it lacks a little extra spark. Have a great day, guys, and see you some other time.